If you don't see Jesus in the face of the unhoused community, then there's something wrong with your Christianity. Hey friends, Angela Parker, Boozy Bible Scholar. I'm doing scripture through womanist eyes using my Natasha Denona Yucca palette and using my Pat McGrath Decadence palette. I have not used this in a long time, so I'm pulling that out. So what scripture am I grounding this in? If you go to Luke chapter 9, verses 57 through 60, where Jesus sets his face to Jerusalem, you'll see that he says the famous line that the Son of Man has no place to lay his head. So I'm going in with Ixia. It's an orange right here. So Luke 9:58, Jesus says the Son of Man has no place to lay his head. Now, let me problematize, first of all, and set the context of Luke. Luke is probably a very educated person writing to a Roman Greek constituency. Other educated people who are living and producing and influenced by, and people who make their income probably from living under the Roman Empire. People who are in the empire benefiting from the empire, not people who are being raped by the empire, like the citizens of Jerusalem or the citizens in the agrarian countryside where Jesus was actually ministering. So that's the first thing. That's about the context. But secondly, translation issues. Jesus says or calls himself the Weos to Anthropou. Weos to Anthropou. And most translators call or translate that as Son of Man, which is really an improper translation. Going in with a slightly smaller brush into Valley. So it's a deeper orange right here in the middle. And so if I were going to translate this text, I would translate Jesus's language of Son of Man into Son of Humanity. Son of Humanity. Because what happens when you translate Son of Man, or Weos to Anthropou as Son of Man? Well, you miss 50% of the population. You miss women. And the language Anthropou, or the Greek word Anthropou, actually has wrapped within it anthropology or humanity. So already in translation, we are missing women in that translation. So I would translate Son of Humanity instead of Son of Man. But that's beside the point of homelessness or unhoused population. I went in with Willow right here to give myself a green outer corner. So Jesus talks about himself as Son of Humanity, thinking about Son of Humanity for all of humanity, all of humankind. And he does not have a place to klino, that's the Greek word for lay, his head. And the interesting thing about klino is that that's also the verb that's often used in the context of the Gospel of Luke to, signify someone who is reclining at dinner. So not only does Jesus not have a place to live, but he also implies that he does not necessarily know where his next meal is coming from. So when he is talking to people who are talking about, Lord, I will follow you wherever you will go, because that's the context of Luke chapter 9, verses 58. They're saying they will follow him wherever he will go. And he's telling them the Son of Humanity is an unhoused person who does not know where their next meal is coming from. And if that's the context in which Jesus ministers, the way that the Trump administration is going into Washington and clearing out unhoused encampments, the people who are actually doing that, when they look in these encampments, they should see the face of Jesus in these unhoused people. And so now I'm going into my glitter, and I'm going to go into Makia right here in the Natasha Denona palette and put that on the center of my lid. And homelessness, or being unhoused, being an unhoused person, is becoming illegal, as has come up in the Supreme Court case of the City of Grants Pass versus Johnson. And as we know, elections have consequences because we have this Supreme Court as a result of our past elections. And now this is where I'm going into the mothership and using this shade right here to go into my inner corner. That's just a little bit brighter than the Makia in the Natasha Denona palette, because you want something bright in your inner corner to give it life and open up your eye. So, yes, we are in an age where being unhoused is becoming illegal, but we should see the face of Jesus in our unhoused population. So here's the finished look, friends. I use my Natasha Denona Yucca palette along with Pat McGrath, and I just talking about how we should see the face of Jesus in our unhoused population. So as always, Angela Parker, Boozy Bible Scholar, be bold, be brave, be brilliant, and I will see you next